you are looking at this constant centralization of power. And at every stage, fewer people are dictating to more and more. And there's another equation in this, which is that the more you centralize power, the more power you have at the center to centralize even quicker. So it gets faster and faster and faster and faster. What has been happening in the background, in the shadows, in the peripheral vision, this manipulation, has gone on public display. The plan is, and has been, to destroy independent income and independent business and force the population to live on what I said was going to be called a guaranteed income, which would be a pittance, and you'd only get it if you do what the government wants you to do. Now, that sounded fantastic, when I first started talking about it. What we know is a very simple thing. Know the outcome and you'll see the journey. If you know where it's meant to go, you'll see the stepping stones to it every day. If you don't, everything seems random. So if you know the journey is to destroy independent business and independent employment with those businesses, I set on a journey from an understanding that the forces that appeared to be controlling the world, like governments and prime ministers and presidents, actually weren't. The real power was in the shadows where you never saw it. So I went on this journey of uncovering it, and to uncover not only that the power is in the unseen, but what that power is seeking to do in terms of where it wants to take humanity. Now, because you're dealing with psychopaths who have no empathy and no limits, where they want to take humanity is truly, truly horrific. And I saw this from the early 1990s. People say, what's the solution? Well, I'm not interested in solutions. I'm interested in removing the cause of the problem, because that is the solution. You can constantly look for solutions to a problem. And what solutions normally do, see politics, is lead to more and more problems, which need more and more solutions, which lead to more problems. If you're going to break the cycle, then you have to remove the cause of the problem. And if you remove the cause of the problem must disappear because its cause is gone. And the problem, and you look right the way through human history, the problem with humanity, which is why the few have always controlled the many. I don't care what the culture is. I don't care what the historical era is. It's the same. Is because the many give their power to the few in the form of acquiescence. And that is how the few have always controlled the many. And if we didn't do that, the few have no power over us. So if someone comes out of Downing Street or the White House and says, we've had a discussion, they do it all the time these days, and this is what's going to happen. If enough of the population say, we're not doing that, then they have no power. There's not enough of them to impose it. Why are governments all over the world borrowing money from private banks? They're the bloody government. Why aren't they creating their own currency interest-free and circulating it interest-free within the population? Why aren't they creating money in this way, which is what the banks are doing, except the banks are charging interest as well, and paying for public projects? Why do they have to borrow money at interest, taxpayer interest, from private corporations and banks and other institutions to pay for these projects? Why aren't they creating their own money interest-free and paying for them that way? Because the people who control the governments are the same people that control the banks. And so laws have been passed to suit the banks. And you look at people around the world, politicians, who have started the process of introducing interest-free money issued by the government. The worst nightmare of the banking system is interest-free money, because that takes their power away at source and their control away at source. So the money system, money should be there to serve the interests of the population, to overcome the limitations of barter. That's the great benefit and use of money. So there is a conduit that means I don't have to paint your house if you'll come and do this to mine, barter. But that there is a conduit that allows me to give energy to you and you to give energy for me for my contribution to you and your contribution to me. That's the benefit of money. Once you start charging interest on it, then money's reason for being disappears and becomes a tool of control and a tool of power. So you have this situation through the money system where you have, because of it, people with skills here, people that want those skills here, but those skills cannot be used for these people who want them because the money system stops that happening. It locks people away. It locks skills away. It locks potential away. Because if you don't got the money, you can't express that potential. And what's happened, in some areas of the world, I've written about this in books long ago, is when there's been a real economic disaster, they have created a system in a community whereby they have credits, and if because there's no money for skills to be used for people that want the skills, so how do you get across that? And what these community systems have done is basically had someone centrally running the computer, and then someone wants their house painted, so the house is painted, and credits go on the painter's account, and the person who's had their house painted now has credits they have to contribute to the community for that, which relate to their skill and what they can contribute to the community. And what these systems have done is overcome the limitations of the financial system. There's no money to pay anybody, and it's basically a middle ground between straight out barter and money, and it's overcome in many instances this locking away of skills which cannot be used because there's not the money to pay for them. And it's again, we come back to how we started out. If you can control the money system, who has it and who doesn't, you completely control everything. You control choice, you control potential, you control possibility. And that's why this cult controls the money system. Indeed, if you go back historically, created it in the form that it is today, where money becomes your goal for the sake of money. And people get up with the sun every day who've got more money than they could spend in 20 lifetimes trying to get more. That is, I think that's a sickness personally. And like I say, it's about using money to control rather than using money for just to acquire the more and more wealth.